Spreadsheets. I really like them. They're wonderfully powerful. They let you do ordered lists, which they call databases, which are easily sorted, numeric computation, some of them amazing, and powerful graphic generation, and can produce authoritative looking results. Sometimes results really are authoritative, and but there's a downside to all this, and I want to read you an article. I'm not sure that to change screens, I need to stop sharing. Is that correct, Steve?
No, you can just go to share and click on the other screen that you want to share without actually stopping.
Okay, new share. All right, that would be here. Share. This is an 11-year-old article. 2009 marks the 30-year anniversary of the now ubiquitous spreadsheet program, and society as a whole has deteriorated ever since its invention. It was a spreadsheet that triggered the PC revolution, with VisiCalc the original culprit. Can anyone say that we've actually benefited from its invention? Look around. I think we've suffered. The author is John Dvorak. For one thing, the spreadsheet created the what-if society. Instead of moving forward and progressing normally, the what-if society questions each and every move we make. It second-guesses everything. Because of the spreadsheet, we've been forced to do the numbers whenever possible. Once the numbers are in the spreadsheet, the what-if process can begin. In fact, the spreadsheet has resulted in the rise of the once lowly accountant/bean counter to a position of influence, and often the executive suite. How often in years past, the pre-spreadsheet era that is, did an accountant take over a company? When and why did the CFO become a title? These people at best were once known as comptrollers. The spreadsheet became a sword and the accountants knew how to wield it. And yes, while all the pundits and visionaries talk about business intelligence and modern practices and this and that, where's the evidence of improvement in the way business runs or works? Cars are shoddy, consumer goods are junk, toxic substances are in the food supply. Lead is in toys. Most of what we buy is made cheaply elsewhere. At every level of the business scene today, some bean counter does a what-if calculation before making the decisions. The spineless CEO worries about what the shareholders would think if he disagreed with the spreadsheet and the CFO told him to do. To make him feel better, the board will give the CEO a fat bonus for saving money. The what-if society has marched forward with little actual regard for the customer. If the customer has a complaint, she can call someone in India, someone doing customer support there, because the spreadsheet told the company it could save 1 cent a year on phone costs. There's no way this idea would have evolved without spreadsheets. By letting a program designed for accountants tell you what to do and what to think, you end up with an economic meltdown. The mechanism itself is flawed. Nobody ever wants to talk about the flaw with spreadsheets, do they? Most spreadsheets are, in fact, fiction or even fantasy. This is what caused the mortgage crisis. Spreadsheets instead of people were making decisions on loans. Soon these loans were wrapped up into neat financial packages, all based on spreadsheet accounting. Brokers gave these packages high AAA financial ratings because the spreadsheet told them to. All spreadsheets, except for the most mundane, are flawed in one way or another. You guess what the growth rate might be. You guess at the future cost of goods. You play what if until you get what you want. There's a lot of guessing games played with spreadsheets. This is a flaw. The Enron scam and the more recent oil price scam were both developed with spreadsheet modeling. What if we could fix prices, they asked. Click, click, click. Wow. So this is the 30th anniversary of the spreadsheet and the subsequent rise of the accountant, the guy calling the shots and doing the deals. This class of people, once known for their meekness and wonkery, has become so powerful that they have managed to protect their common incompetence, see Enron, MCI, Madoff, among other screw-up examples, by instituting Sarbanes-Oxley, essentially a law that protects them in any situation that involves them. I don't blame any of these folks for taking advantage of the spreadsheet and the evolution of what if. But why give them the keys to the car when you knew they couldn't drive? Look around and see what's happened. You can thank the spreadsheet for all of this junk. Happy birthday. So,
Very good.
well, I see I stopped sharing. All right, let me go back to my slides here. And so my problem, I really love spreadsheets, but the article talks about how dangerous they are. Part of the reason they're dangerous is that they allow, even force, information hiding. You can't see the formulas easily. You can't?
Excuse me, John?
Yes.
I mean, that article struck me as sort of tongue-in-cheek. I was at the birth of Spreadsheets at a company called IDC, and where we had a spreadsheet, and then the people who developed VisiCalc were there, and foolishly offered me a job, but I thought they were kidding. And then they developed VisiCalc, but you can't see the formulas. It's easy. You just go ask Excel to show me all the formulas, and it will in the cells. So, I mean, that's trivial. So, but I also question the notion of spreadsheets. It's just a tool. And I then became lead developer of spreadsheets at a company called Applix, where basically they were doing an office automation, and I reverse engineered 1, 2, 3 and Excel back in the days when Excel was considerably inferior.
Bob?
Okay,
Bob,
so that's it.
We hold on this, and let's get through the presentation, then we can start talking about the commentary, because there's 3 people presenting today.
Okay.
Thank you.
That's it.
So, yeah, well, I agree. It is a tool, and tools can be used for good or evil. You know, an axe and a hammer are very important to have, and but they can be used destructively. And I believe that seeing the formulas, yes, you can click on a cell and see the formula, but not at the same time you're seeing the data. As far as I know, maybe there's a better way. It's hard to include the comments, what the formula is supposed to do, and at least it is for me. And maybe we can be enlightened on an easy way to have the formulas built-in explanations along with the rationale for what is going on, what the overall flow is, and the underlying assumptions, correct or controversial, may be hard to detect. It's hard to see what the assumptions are by looking at the top spreadsheet with the numbers showing. Next slide. How do I go to the next one? Maybe. There we go.
Push in.
Here we go. Another thing is the precision. I was trying to think of a way to talk about this. Because, for instance, the digital speedometer you see on on your dashboard these days, at least when they were originally done, they were just A to D converter presenting what was previously an analog input to digitizing it. So it gave you an exact number, 55, but it wasn't any more exact than the needle waving around the general vicinity of the 55 mark. It just looked exact. And so it presents values that may be approximate with convincingly stated precision to as many decimal points as you specify. And yesterday I was reading a book, and it's addressed this, if you can transform a vague notion into a numerical score, you greatly improve your chances of convincing skeptics that the vague notion is factual. That's lesson 6.6 from Management of Mousetrap R&D by Noel Moberg, PhD. This is a shameless plug. He's my wife's third or so cousin. So, I have a couple of examples, and then we may want to move on to other things. The free cell spreadsheet. I've been accused of taking it altogether too seriously, but I was trying to keep track of how I was doing with my free cell. So can you see my free cell?
Yes.
Yeah, we're watching you play.
Okay, so and I may be in over my head here. I was a little concerned about about making this presentation once we got a question and answer with John Rudy posed a question about how do you do this, and Steve came back with a really good answer, and that may actually be the way that we should really be viewing and using spreadsheets is by having a problem to solve and then solving it, rather than having me present various techniques that I've used in the past. Clearly, in part of this meeting are people who have a lot more experience with spreadsheets than I, and so we can I can show you what a couple of the ones that I've done. They are not they may be something to be really modest about, but I thought they had some interesting things, but they're pretty simple. And so let me the next thing I wanted to do here, the reason I played the free cell game is I meant to get the statistics. The statistics are you get this result back with what the total winning percentage is, and what your maximum streaks were, the wins and the losses, and but that doesn't tell you how you're doing overall. If I were to resign this game, it will change the oh, come on, statistics. So now I've won one and lost one, and I'm at 88%, having lost one. And what I wanted to do was to see, well, how am I long term on being able to get better at doing free cell? Oh, that should take a stop sharing as the window is closed. Okay, let's go back to the slide, and it's this one here. So the thing that just what this does that's a little different, I think, is find a previous row, perform the computation on data from the found row and the current row. It demonstrates the use of fixed cell value and header retention. Also demonstrates the recent improvement of my free set skill to be non-existent or slow at best. I may be illustrating some personal limitations in looking at this. Now I need to find the I guess I need to go here. I need to go there after closing full screen. I share that, and now, oh good, this should work. I should be able to do this, and do the, here it is. So this is, I can't seem to get beyond 90%. And basically what I put in here that I thought might be interesting, but it may be that this is too trivial for anyone to find amusement in this audience. But what I was looking for was, well, how many games do I have to play to get to 90.5, which would show up as 91? And it says 264 games to go. How did I do? What was the percentage for the last 100? Well, it's 89.42. If I wanted the last 10%, I could put in 813 there, and see that 89.67. So I'm not really improving very much, but the way that this was computed is to use an if statement to, I'm sorry, you have to count. First you have to figure out how many games were actually played total. And we just saw the readouts you get are the how many you won, how many you lost, and the percentage to no decimal points. And this gives you the actual percentage. And so the first thing to figure out is, well, how many have you played? Then this counts back by whatever number this is to a game less than that, a previous game, and then does the calculation as to what your won-loss percentage was since then. And so that was a little, well, just no big deal, but a little different than just keeping track of data. This other one has to do with what was the best score I ever got, and then it looks up to see, well, when was it? So just a little spreadsheet I did for myself, and these other things I've kind of forgotten what they do, and you know, it kind of doesn't matter. So I guess that's really all I wanted to present here, and it occurs to me that this may be far too trivial for anyone to find interesting. I don't know. While I'm here, no, I don't want it.
So Jonathan, can you graph that somehow?
I thought about that overnight, and but yes, I could. We could graph that. I've lost track of just how
Okay.
to do that, but we could try if you wanted. I think you go to. They've introduced the ribbon here since insert, and this may be. How about a line chart? 2D line, yeah. Now your screen sharing.
I think you would select your cells first and then insert the line.
Yeah, that's a little bit easier usually.
Okay, so I'll get back out of that, and I want to have this column. Actually, you do the whole column, is it? I think you do.
Yeah, just click on the A and give you the whole column.
Click on the A, okay. And what I'd like to graph is that versus.
And hold down the control key.
Yeah.
And click the second column.
That and my actual calculated percentage would be here. And then you go for the chart. Is that right?
Let's give it a shot.
Okay, line chart. Yeah, pretty pathetic there. Now,
We can't see it.
Not such a good range. Need to change the height there. No, this didn't work. I should. Oh, there we go. Well, okay. So the blue one is the percentage, the real percentage. And apparently I did the wrong one on the.
No, Jonathan, just for there, you can do the same thing. If you double click on the y-axis,
Okay.
you can change the range. Instead of being automatic, you can change the range from, say, 80 to 100, and you'll see all the variation of the daily scores a little clearer.
The
If that's what you're trying to demonstrate.
well, apparently the percentage, the real percentage is calculated differently than. Oh yes, I've formatted it differently so that the real the percentage in this column is this is a straight number, not presented as a percent, whereas it needs to. They're calculated differently. So this is a percentage on the far right, but the reporting here is is not that. So maybe if I
want to say my interpretation of what you've got there, Jonathan, is that you're so good at pre-sale that your improvement can't be that great. And that's what we're observing.
I like that, Charlie. Thank you.
All right.
So if we go to
If you select those cells, cancel here. If you select those cells, go up to the top. You selected the cells. Do a cancel here.
well,
Okay, that worked too. There's a button on the screen that will do that percentage for you, and that's up at the top where it says to the right of wrap text and to the left of conditional formatting, it says percentage. Underneath it is a percent sign. If you click the percent sign, then they'll automatically change it to be a percent.
Well, the problem is you got to divide by 100 because percents are,
Yeah.
scale from 0 to 1.
He
And
has
then
two scales that differ by a factor of 100. So they're going to plot like this because one's real small and the other
That's
one's
right.
100.
Okay. Oh, never mind.
So
Well, no, they'd say it worked. I just did that. But now I need to divide everything by 100. Is there anyone who could advise me on how to,
Yes, it's called Control Z.
okay?
No, you get out of this first and do Control Z.
Yeah,
There you go.
okay. Now how do I divide
That's
all
an
that?
undo. Jonathan, that's undo.
Yeah, I knew that. And now divide all these by 100. So I can divide that by 100. No, I need to divide it
Yep,
over
slash
here.
100.
Okay.
Go to the first line of the formula, Jonathan, and change it so that you have it divided by 100.
Yeah. Okay. And then just we're up to 2016 now. We'll be there soon.
Just remember the free cell thing. It's always, the odds are against you. The house always wins.
Yeah.
you've been doing this a while.
Yes. I do it for relaxation, I think. So there it is. Now I need to get back to the top and see what the chart does. Uh-huh. Okay, so maybe I ought to redo the chart. Oh, no, that's use the technique for the scale. How did I do that, Steve? You told me how to change this, or one of you had to.
If I were doing it, I would delete the chart and redraw it.
Okay. So,
You can just right-click the y-axis and change the numbers by doing that. Called
Okay.
Format Axis.
all right, it's becoming increasingly evident that everybody here knows better how to do this than I do, and that I'm probably the wrong person.
Jonathan, when you create the chart, one of the options is to put it on a new tab. So that way, instead of just being buried in this tab on top of your data, you actually get a full tab with the chart on it.
Excel's pretty powerful. If you just right mouse button, click over the y-axis and then change it instead of being auto calculate to specify a range.
Actually, on the numbers, Jonathan. Double click the numbers.
Okay. And double click the numbers. All right.
You right-click that. You right-click it.
Yeah,
Okay.
right click
Now
is-
Format Axis. Go down to Format Axis.
Okay.
Now where you say Axis Options, where it says maximum
Yeah.
and then major unit.
Yeah.
Okay, those shows you your units.
Okay.
Just make it fixed on both the minimum and max, and that's probably it. Do zeros.
His
I can see
first
what that
entry
does.
is way larger than all the other entries, why he's getting that spike at the beginning.
What? Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So those first,
Oh,
My
Yeah.
bad.
yeah.
Okay. Now we can fix the chart. Right. Double click on the numbers. Select
Go
data.
back to Format Axis.
Yeah.
Do the same thing. Now it says minimum. You can change that to like 80 instead of auto. Say change instead of 0 for the minimum.
Okay.
There we go.
There you go. Looks good.
Make it bigger here. All right. So, yeah, it's back in the middle of the decade, I was improving, and it's kind of stopped, although I have my moments, it appears.
It's actually got built-in statistics. You can actually add trend lines of different types and such. And so you don't have to manually do the averages. You can do moving averages. You can use exponential smoothing. There's a lot of ways to visualize the data.
Absolutely.
All right. So I think I'll save this lesson as something new here. And and thank you very much for the assistance. I'm kind of hesitant to show the next one, but I guess I'll proceed. It's I did have quite a bit of lessons learned from the next one, which is this. There's at my church we have a foundation that consists of a number of funds. Donors will give us money for designated purposes, and we're allowed to spend only the interest or the proceeds from that money, and but we must leave the principal alone. So across the top here are the various funds that are available. This is Lutheran Church of the Redeemer for various altruistic causes, and it's a way that people can direct money over a long term to their favorite causes. The problem, I first became treasurer of this early this century, and my predecessor was a person who had founded it, a man of unquestioned integrity, but a professional accountant. And so he may have explained how to allocate things that have been accrued, things, how to apply various professional accounting techniques. He may have explained them, and if he did, I didn't understand them. And so I'm an engineer, and I wanted to know two things, basically. The bottom line thing is, how much money can we spend from a given fund at this time? How much money is available to spend? And so this was down here at the bottom. We have across this row is from the various causes, the amount of money at the end of the year. It turns out that we could spend on particular things. So and the other question was, well, where is the money? What the funds are commingled, and so right now the sort of thing that we over here on the left are where the money is or was at December 31st. What the bank statement says is there, and then there's a column for what comes, what we have but hasn't really registered at the bank. So that then you get how much money is actually there, and there's a crude attempt here at figuring out what the earnings are. It wasn't designed to actually measure the performance. It was to really give us an indication of where we could spend money. And this is all done. The entries are done in the grayed out portions, so that if we here's a case where we received a donation of $5,000, and we have to figure out how much of the commingled funds goes toward a given, how much of the earnings, what percentage of the total given fund is. So the Edith White Fund is 26.92, the Milo Swanson Fund was 17.38. After the donation, before the donation, it was only 15%, and so on. So this made visible. And there was a mention earlier of one of the things that makes this better than hiring a programmer is that the things can be made visible, and this was my attempt at making visible the exact location of the money and the location and where we had the opportunity to do good things with the money. It's cross-linked so that you enter the fund action here, if you and then account for the money on the other page. And I could go into details on that, but I don't. I have the feeling that this group will probably not be impressed. Here's the description of it. It's cross-linked tabs compute apportionment of designated funds from commingled financial accounts. It demonstrates ways to present complex situation with some clarity. And also, I worked hard on the page formatting so that it would print on 8.5 by 11 sheets. And it demonstrates fixed column and row labels, which are cosmetic and but useful functionally and well beneath what the expertise I'm hearing here. Also, I did fixed it in so that I could enter the year in an edge column there and have all the years be updated. So it would go on to other years. There are consistency checks in there, and there are guides for cell entries, which is to say the places where you're supposed to change things are shaded. So the lessons I learned from this is mistakes creep in. You need to perform manual sanity checks occasionally. Things happen somehow. It just happens. This is since this I originated this. This has evolved since 2002 or so. I was treasurer for 5 years at first, and then off for 6 years, and then just finished being treasurer for another 6 years. So, two things I gave up on is not being worth the effort, and would be completely invisible in the absence of my confession was compute the accurate investment return in a dynamic environment. I have an approximation there on the first page, but it's only an approximation, and to some degree it doesn't matter. It is what it is, and you check to see how much money you started with, how much money you have at the end of the period, and deduct out or add in the things that you did to change that manually, and you get a percentage return. And having the safety margin, the 15% safety margin, that does create some real hard to detect interactions. The fact is that if somebody donates $10,000 to a fund, there's it goes into the fund. You've got the $10,000 extra. Not allowed to spend the $10,000 because that's principal. You and furthermore, not only you also, if you invested it in a volatile investment like Vanguard, which is what our best return is, you also tie up an additional $1,500 if you're going to have a 15% safety margin. So not only, yes, it makes the fund becomes more, a bigger percentage of the overall total, but it cuts your free cash by $1,500. And that's a difficult concept to, at least it was for me, to figure out, well, wait, what's going on there, and then finally did figure out. So, and there were some problems with trying to move from one fund to another.
I have a spreadsheet that I think is an extremely practical example and does some kind of neat stuff I'd like to present. I've done a small spreadsheet here. It's very simple. I think it's something that I'm using to keep track of my checkbook. I want to make sure that I have enough money flowing into there based upon my income, and that I don't have too much money flowing out so that I won't overdraft. So I've created something like this. This is derived from it. This isn't my real one. This is a fake one, but this is a valid use of what I'm talking about here. So I started off the year and I have a balance from previous year of $4,012. And then I have a number of things that are going on. I have credit card payments, so now it's how much I paid in January, car insurance, electric, oil, so forth. And it's keeping track of the balance here. And it's not a major thing how it's keeping track of the balance. You can see that it's just taking the preceding one here and adding this one. So when I put negatives here, it decreases. That also means that I can take this and move down and it will redo them. So now let's suppose that on January 6th, I made a donation. So what I want to do now is I want to insert and I will move cell down and I want to put a donation for cancer. And it's $100. Now it doesn't do anything yet because I haven't extended down, but as soon as I do that, you can see that down here I would be kind of low, so I might want to have withdrawn more from savings here. I want to put more in. I mean, there's not much here just yet because this is just a check register. I'm sure that there's people follow what's going on. I keep track of which ones have cleared and which ones, the way they are, it's an auto pay. This would be by a check, maybe, and so forth. Any questions so far? By the way, I'm using, although it's ODS, which means it's LibreOffice, although I'm using LibreOffice, this spreadsheet originally came from an Excel spreadsheet, and everything I'm doing here can be done on an Excel spreadsheet.
Steve,
So,
question.
Yes.
Is there any reason why you're not using double entry where your negatives are in one column and your positives are in a different column?
Yeah, because I didn't. I chose not to.
He was absent the day they taught accounting.
You know, there's the old thing here now. Where would I put that? Okay, there's a story about an old accountant, and every day people watch him come into his office and go into his desk and open up the drawer on the left and look inside the drawer and nod his head and then close the drawer. Well, every day he would do this, and one day he decides to retire. When he leaves, one of the associates says, I got to see what this thing says. Okay, so he goes into the guy's room and he opens up the drawer, and the only thing that's in that drawer is a piece of paper, and it says debits on the left, credits on the right.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Although that transaction column could be split into two, in and out.
It certainly
Although,
could
Bob,
be.
you missed the joke, but that's okay.
I understand. Diagram it for me in a spreadsheet.
Okay. So another thing I'm doing, so the way I'm handling this, I like one column in a check register. Like in your check register, you don't have two columns. And I can sum up all of my expenses, and I can sum up all of my income by some conditional formatting if I felt the need to do that. But one thing I like to have is I like to have conditional formatting where all of my income is green, pick a color. And I could make all my expenses red, but I think black is sufficient. So another thing that I've done here, I'm going to slide over, is that I like to keep track of my credit cards payments. And here are some payments that I fakedly made. I happen to have, in this particular instance, 6 credit cards, and these are the amounts that I paid in January. This automatically sums up, and then I have this carry over to this one right here. It says equal to this value, negative to this value here. So that I can keep track of my individual payments without having to put them into my check register, because it's not, because it makes it a little easier. This way I can see for sure that I'm paying each of my credit cards. Nothing really that exciting just yet. Another thing is, let's suppose I have...
Steve, on this example, you have to, you're showing manually linking 2 cells. Like your credit card payment was manually linked to the total for that particular date, correct?
Yes.
As opposed
The
to doing
2315 is directly linked to the one over here.
right, as opposed to doing anything more sophisticated like a lookup or anything else like that.
That's correct. I do have a lookup coming.
Fair enough. Just trying to understand.
150, I didn't add this, and suppose I want to donate some more to cancer. 150. I thought I put everything in here, and then I realized I had these other expenses in my fake spreadsheet. And I give them another $100. I can then take care of this here. And if this was a budget, I'd see that I have to give it at least another 100. So I'm going to say that I've donated 1,600 from savings here, and then that brings up the positive. This is how I can adjust these donations here to these incomes to make sure it fits. But that's not the reason I was going to show this. The next part on the spreadsheet is where I have a totals from the check register by category. For instance, this is the sum of all of the electric payments here. Of each entry that says electric, it's summing them up. For another one, we can have donate. And this shows the 3 donations that I put in, 100, 100, and 150. Automatically comes there. And I could also put, and it will show me the 2 donations for cancer. Now, I also got some money from my mother, so I could put mom here. That's why I've got that there. Oh, thank you, Mom. This would be quite a trick for her to give me this money, but nonetheless. And so this is, as you can see, this is dynamic. The x-axis are so it's not looking for null strings. So we could also say, for instance, I think I already put all Social Security here, all supplemental, all mortgages, all the credit card payments, all the way down.
How are the
How is this done?
how are these
Yes.
tagged so that you collect all the Social Security entries and bring them over here?
Okay. Well, glad that you asked. What I have here is I have a formula right here that I'm using. And this is that formula right here. So in each one of these, I have a given formula. And what it says, it's a sum if. It's a conditional sum. It says, look in all of the entries in column B. Column B, as you recall, is the what. Look at all the entries for column B. And look inside there for M6, which would be electric, is M6. Look for star and star. So anything that contains the string that's in this particular column here. For instance, over here I can put OCI for Social Security, and it'll find the Social Security. Or anything else that had I in it. Might be something else that had OCI in it. So it finds any row that has this substring in it, and then adds in the value in the C column, which is the amount. The balance, the amount.
So if there's a
So now it's
typo in the transaction, it's not going to register properly in that column. One thing I tend to do is just keep the detail there and use a feature called crosstabs. And I can slice and dice it various ways. It's automatic, and I can see everything rolled up either by just the category or by date and time.
Okay, so you're doing it's an extension of this. I'm using specific ones here that I enter myself, and these are the ones that I'd be interested in. When I was doing my taxes, I might want to know what my mortgage and my car insurance was, and my Social Security income. Yours would go with each different.
Well, it's sort of brute force. You just highlight the columns on the left, and then say insert crosstab and pick, and it automatically rolls it up into the buckets.
Mitch, you're really talking about that 2 ways of skinning a cat. Like everything else, there are multiple ways to do things. In this example, Steve is using a specific function, SUMIF,
Yeah.
and showing how that works, and it's demonstrating that very well. And I think he did a good job. When you go into crosstab, the SUMIF is embedded within the crosstab logic, the same procedures. So you're just putting another layer of obfuscation on top of it.
It's automatic. It's built into the software. So you're not doing any ifs. It's just built in the user interface and automatically updates.
That's right.
Called
You're
crosstabs.
But you can find all your typos because stuff, for example, if there was a typo on cancer and was misspelled, it wouldn't appear in that column, but it would show up as a separate column with a very low value. So
You're
it's a-
absolutely right. You know, in what you're saying. My only point being is that when you use something like a crosstab, and that may be good for a little later on after Steve explains some of the basics, when you use a crosstab, it has these functions as well as many others underneath the covers with an umbrella over it that actually grabs the information in certain ways and then presents it. So we're doing.
Yeah, it's a high order, it's a higher level advanced construct, but the beauty of it is you just highlight and click and you're done, and it doesn't have, you don't have to enter a lot of detail.
Correct, but I don't think that's what Steve was demonstrating now. You are correct, Mitch.
Yeah.
It's something
Okay.
to take a look in. It looks like a good one.
I wonder how many people maintain their check register in a spreadsheet or use a program.
I am required by Social Security to keep track of my expenses.
I use Quicken.
Spreadsheet, Bob?
This looks like
is
a
wonderful.
relational database that you've made a spreadsheet into a relational database. Now it looks like you're Bob Cratchit with electricity. That you have basically you have a central register which is you put in every transaction, and then it either goes to a debit or goes to a credit automatically, which is what double entry bookkeeping is. And this is which makes it a relational database because you don't do the double entry as Bob Cratchit did on Christmas morning. That's what it looks like to me. It looks very much like what QuickBooks does for you now. And QuickBooks will, for example, you can't misspell something because you've already put it in a category. You can't add a category without adding a category. But it functions very much like what you've done here.
So
Jerry, you can do
I
the
didn't
same,
tell you the.
you can do the same thing here, Jerry, if you use certain features of this to limit the names of the categories to a predefined list. So you can do the same thing. All QuickBook and all those other tools do is essentially the same thing with more bells and whistles associated with it.
Well, it's parentheses for dummies.
So I didn't tell you how I got to this. I first started out trying to use Quicken. This was a lot of years ago, and then I found out that they're starting to charge you every year, and I didn't like that. So then I became treasurer for my temple, and I used and bought QuickBooks, and it was marvelous to use, but it required a lot of work. For each person, I have to have their own account. And then I came home and I stopped being the treasurer, and I said, I just want to keep track of my checkbook so I don't overdraft it. And I wanted to get rid of all of the overhead that goes into Quicken, and Quicken hides things. Now, it's just me. This is my opinion here. The Quicken hides things from me. Well, here, everything is right in front of me. I can see it, and I can adjust. Right here, I can see that on February 9th, I'm going to have an issue if I accidentally take out some money from an ATM. It's going to go negative. So maybe I want to add some more money sometime. I can use this to plan out. Now, you might be able to do the same thing in Quicken, but here, I just find it easier to do a spreadsheet, and that's just my opinion.
Say, Steve.
Potato.
Steve,
Sir?
have you created any graphs for the data in here?
No, I haven't. I haven't had a need to create graphs.
Because I could see a nice pie chart for the totals from the check register by category.
Yeah, we could certainly do that.
That would
But
be easy.
it would be a nice exercise to do. However, when I'm keeping track of how much money is in my checkbook, and when I'm going at the end of the year trying to fill out my 1040 forms, I don't really need the spreadsheet, the pie chart. So,
So
I mean,
Steve-
that's just me. I mean, somebody else, you might want to use that. Now, I
Listen,
have another
Steve.
spreadsheet I want to show you too, but go ahead.
In a former life, what I did before TurboTax was available, and I was believe just using Quicken. What happens is the IRS puts out a document called Publication 17, and I believe they still have it. And Publication 17, Joel, you saying they don't have it?
They have it, but only online.
Okay, thank you.
Don't print it anymore.
All right. So, but Publication 17 basically is every single line on the 1040, what it means and what you're supposed to do to get that number. So You could pick it up in the post office. You could pick it up when they gave out free tax, wherever they had free tax forms. It was available free. And I started building a spreadsheet with linked columns. And so I would have a page in the front of the first tab in the front of the spreadsheet that have all the different categories and numbers that I had. My income, my expenses, my, this and that, and all the other things that were involved that I needed. And then I would have a spreadsheet that would be my US 1040 and then my Massachusetts Form 1 with the appropriate formulas based on those numbers. And so as I edited it in, the numbers would flow onto the spreadsheet, and it would be just a question of taking that information and then transferring it to the form for the government. My personal finances got a little more complicated, blah, blah, blah. I ended up not using that any longer and using an accountant, but still the bottom line is that that's really a perfect example of how this stuff can work and the kinds of things. It wasn't sophisticated, but it just shows how information can be shared between cells. And it's more or less what you're doing here, Steve. You're showing that information can be aggregated in various categories and summed up and used in different ways. And that was a practical example I just wanted to share.
So Steve, one more thing that I do with mine, you have a column called cleared. So I reconcile my bank statement based upon what's been cleared. And I have a number at the top that should agree with my bank statement after I click the cleared. Do you do something like that as well?
That's what this would be. I can take a look at any given point in time online. I can check my bank account. Right. Suppose today was February 9th. Okay. I can go to the bank and look and see right now and see all the things. Oh, this one has cleared. Whoops.
No, but like in a monthly statement, you got a total of what was there at the end of the month. How do you reconcile that total to what you have in your spreadsheet?
Frankly, I don't. And the reason I don't is because I use my bank account online. So that means that I don't have to wait for the end of the month to do a reconciliation. I can pick any day of the month.
Yeah,
fact,
I can reconcile any time, but the point is if there's a number that's wrong over here versus the online system, how do you detect?
I will see that immediately. And the problem I typically had with that, and that's why I start coloring my credits as green, is that I'll put in a debit, I'll put in a car insurance that's a positive number instead of a negative. So that's how I get rid of it, by using the color here for conditional formatting. With regards to balancing with my banking account, I can connect up to my bank account right now on one monitor, and I can go to my spreadsheet on another monitor, and I can look at today, and I see I should have this much dollars. And since I'm only putting dollars in here, I'm off by about $1 maybe, and I can check with my bank account right this moment, so that if there's something happening that was a mistake today or yesterday, I'll find it right away.
Yeah, no, but I keep the cumulative. You have the balance at the end of a period, like the end of the month. And you should be able to reconcile that directly to a total that's coming off your spreadsheet, rather than having to go through every transaction and figure out what's cleared and what hasn't. Once you mark it as cleared, it should agree with the total that the bank
that's
has.
exactly what it is. If this was a Y here, and sorry, I just carry this.
No, but I don't see a total over here to tell
right
you.
Here. That's what this is. 3352 right here.
Okay, so that's all the cleared transactions.
Yeah, this, for instance, if this one was cleared, okay, then I wouldn't show 1109. I'd show 1109 plus 2000, because it's 2000 hasn't come out.
All right.
So my reconciliation is dynamic, and I can do it whenever I want to. I don't have to wait till the end of the month. I can check right now, and I can identify errors and omissions right now.
Okay.
Now, along the line of what Bob said, why am I not using Quicken? One of the reasons is because it's an expense. Now, in the same token, why am I not using Excel? Why am I using LibreOffice? You can see it up here on the top, perhaps. Because LibreOffice is free, and I found that it does everything that I have ever needed to do inside Microsoft Office, and it doesn't cost anything. Because this is a relatively new machine I'm using. When I got this machine a little over a year ago, I was faced with, what am I going to use with my Excel spreadsheets? Okay, because I was doing Excel under Windows on my old machine, and now I come over here to my new machine. I got my spreadsheet, but I have to look at it, and I don't want to have to spend 150 or whatever it is the cost to get a new Microsoft Office, and I got LibreOffice for free. So that's the end of the advertising for that.
Now, Steve,
This is Larry. I'd like to put in a plug for OpenOffice, which I use.
It's very
LibreOffice.
similar.
Yeah, Libre is close, or OpenOffice, which is a German product, is closer to Excel than Libre is. Libre is like Office 2003 or something, and OpenOffice is very close to what Excel is now. If you use the free version, you can't do things like macros.
Okay. I'm not familiar with OpenOffice. I found LibreOffice, but
You were saying a free version of what product? What were you talking about, Larry?
OpenOffice.
OpenOffice has free and paid? They have
Yes.
two versions?
Yeah.
Interesting. When I was looking at it, I use LibreOffice as well. When I was looking at it, I thought that LibreOffice and OpenOffice had the same open software. However, one of them was a little more advanced, according to the reviews at the time when I took it, when I decided to start using it. So I don't know. You certainly know more about OpenOffice than I do. So I ended up using Libre at the time, but that's all I can say about that.
Well, I used Libre for
It
about
works
3
fine.
years.
The other advantage of a spreadsheet is that you can also paste, like if you pay the same bills every month, you can quickly just copy and paste that whole section. I pay every bill on a different day of the month, and it just flows the same way when I reconcile statements.
oh, I didn't show you something else you can do. Okay, and that is that if you take here, and we go all the way down to the bottom here, and then if we go up to data, format, no, there it is, data. Format. Huh, that's interesting. I thought there was a way to, okay, help me, Bob, where is it? I'm looking for a source. I'm looking for data sort. Anyway, what you can do is you can sort these by this column here.
It's under the Zoom taskbar that you have hiding things.
It's under the
If you
Zoom
want to
task.
sort, I think you have to highlight it first.
Oh, got it. Thank you. Okay, so if I were to select here, and if I go to data, sort by column B, and then secondly by the date, which would be column A, ascending. Then what happens is all these numbers on the right get all messed up. That's not important. But what I can see is these are all of my accounts here. So that if I want to add, I have donate here, but if I want to add something else, it's maybe donate food bank. And I want to do that a number of times. Okay, so maybe I want to do that on 125, correctly done. Whoops, come on. 320, and I want to do it 515 and 622.
Just confusing.
And I want to put in $100 for each of them. Then I can select all these, do Control D.
B?
That's not the right one.
Control V.
Okay, so now what I've done is I've introduced all of these guys here. So I've introduced, this is what you can do at the beginning of your year. You can put all of your different charges. For instance, I see that all my drug insurance is $30. All of my supplemental is $222. So I can enter these all into my budget at the start of the year. And then once I've done that, I can come back up to here. I don't want to affect the first line. I can do another data sort. And this time I want to sort just on column A. And now it's all sorted by date. And the only thing I need to do is I just need to take these and slide all the way down to the bottom. And there you can see the screen issue. So I've added other donations that I'm making. And the credit card payments, this one here should be equal to minus this one. And now we're going to go negative.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Going back to the Excel versus Open Office, is it possible to make a quick transfer from one database to the other?
First of all, it's a spreadsheet. And second, I was, as I said earlier, I was originally developing this in a Microsoft Excel. And then I moved over to using LibreOffice. I didn't do OpenOffice. I found LibreOffice at the time, and it read in exactly all the stuff I'm doing here worked out just fine by reading the XLS file.
Yeah, that was kind of what I was looking for.
And I'll save this. I can save this spreadsheet as an XLS
Right.
and make it available on the wiki.
Yeah, okay. I'm doing the same sort of thing with OpenOffice too. Yep.
Now, Harry has something that he wants to present. Charlie, we might not get to you. I do want to show one more thing here. I'll try to take about 5 minutes on this. I maintain a class register for students who are taking a class. We have, and I've munged the data here. The thing is, we have various facilitators, we have students, and we have a total weighted score, which is basically based upon the values that they got on Tuesday, 90% of Wednesday, and 180% of Thursday. We add them up here. So I'm doing a special thing here. I'm taking from the different spreadsheets down here, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and I'm giving them full credit for the stuff they turn in on the due date on Tuesday, and I'm taking off 10 and 20%. And that's what this here is taking F3 plus 0.9 times the difference from F3 to G3 and 0.8 from here. Now, these values here come from this is a computed average. It comes from the Tuesday spreadsheet, and the problem I'm having here is that this is not a correct one. It's based on 552, when it really should be based on 316 plus 67. The lab students aren't doing. So what I have to do is I have to do a computation based upon this here. I'm recomputing the percentage that I'm seeing over here. This shows each of the students and who their group is and who their facilitator is. So I'm extracting the facilitator name from this column, and I'm extracting the 316 and the 67 from here, adding them in and dividing that into the sum of 100 of these two things here. Now, I've just said a lot in the last 2 minutes. You following what I'm doing here? I see some nodding heads. So I'm doing a number of things. First of all, here, for getting the basal rathbone, I have to do a substitution to pull out from here just the words basal rathbone, which is stuff after the space, after the hyphen, and before the comma. And then over here, I'm pulling the values for each of the dates by recomputing it. So I'm taking the Tuesday, which points to the Tuesday over here, this 60. I'm taking that and multiplying it by the participation weight, which I extracted to be 316. And then I've added the Tuesday G2. Times P4. In any event, I know this works and I don't recall why. But it computes this based upon what they really did here, which they did 60 and 60, so they should get 60%. And then this explains how I get the 316, which also explains the extraction. So I'm extracting a string from inside a cell.
one of the issues we talk about is how to display information. What do you do with it once you have all these numbers? And I wanted to show you this. It is a book by a guy by the name of Edward Tufte. He's out of Yale. He's done a whole bunch of books. I've heard him speak a couple of times. And as the title indicates, it's the visual display of quantitative information. It basically gives you ideas, examples, and talks about how spreadsheet data, if you will, or qualitative information can be used and misused. And he does a very good job of showing examples when it's been done both ways. One of his prime examples is a chart which is very old, and this chart goes back a long time, and it's a chart of Napoleon's retreat from Moscow. And I'm not going to spend very much time on it. It's been a long time, lots of places. Basically, it says this is the size of Napoleon's army, this broad band, and as he moves towards Moscow, the temperature changes, his army changes, he gets to Moscow, he gets defeat, he retreats, and you see the diminishment of the army as he goes back. And this is like about 14 different pieces of information altogether. But the beauty of it is basically you look at it and you see, oh yeah, he's really done a great job. And this is a classic form of how you represent information in a meaningful way that presents a ton of data without distorting facts and what's going on.
So I'm going to show you three things. And actually, the first thing I'm going to show you, I should have left for last, but because I've written on it with my screen marker, I got to show it first so that I can then erase that and show you then two other very small uses of spreadsheets that we make here. Let's see. I've got a dancing beach ball. Try again. There we go. All right. You see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the use of a spreadsheet for solving a differential equation. It's a numerical solution of an equation, and what I've chosen is pretty much lifted out of Feynman's lectures, where he shows you how a numerical calculation will produce an orbital motion. So in effect, what I'm going to show you is a way to get a planet going around the sun. And the idea is, if you do any of these things for a short enough amount of time, then the equations are very simple. You know, you have a velocity which is essentially constant if the time interval is small enough. So you take the velocity times a very small time interval plus wherever you are, and that's where you'll be at the end of that time interval. Same thing works for the velocity. If you have a small time interval, there's some kind of an acceleration around. Well, if the time interval is small enough, that's a constant acceleration. And you add that constant acceleration times the time interval to the velocity that you had at the beginning of the interval, and that's your new velocity. And now this is the tricky part. What about the acceleration? Well, the acceleration comes out of Newton's law of gravity. And that's what I've written here. And you have to, if you're going to do a planet, then you have to do a set of equations like this and this, but you have to do another set for y, the y component of the motion. And r is just wherever you happen to be, r sub 1 would be x sub 1 squared plus y sub 1 squared. For simplicity, you just set everything equal to 1. And you get the x component of the acceleration by this. It's really the cosine of an angle, but that's not very important. What I wanted to show you is that you can go and set things up here. And along this row, I have a column for the x component of the acceleration, the y component, the x position, the y position, the velocity, the x component, and the y component of the velocity. And I'm going to give some initial conditions. I'm going to start this thing at x equal 0.5 and y equals 0. So I'll show you a picture in a minute so that that's clear. And then, without going into the details, these are going to be the initial velocity. So you have to imagine you've got a ball here, and you've got something over here, and it's got a little bit of velocity in this direction, a smaller amount of velocity in that direction. So it's actually starting to go off at an angle. Then you're going to crank the acceleration up. And that's what you do in the next equation. And this is where you're using the fact that you can take, you can use here, you can calculate the position, let's go to x. It's easier to see, perhaps. You can calculate the position of x as being the position where it was, and that's the value that's in your cell F2. And B star 2 is your time interval. And you'll see why I want the, not star 2, but $2. I'll show you why I want that in a minute. Times the velocity, which comes out of this column, H2. So I'm using in this row data points from the previous row. And when I do that, I can now make use of a very nice feature, which is if I select the row, and I've just selected the whole row, and I grab this, and I pull this down, 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 it generates all successive data points, and I'm going to just get rid of this equation here, and then I'm going to that. And I have already set up the graph here so that you can see that as it's calculating here, it's plotting a succession of values of x and y. And you can see it's a beautiful orbit. The sun is right here at the origin of the coordinate system. The initial conditions are such that it starts off, and then Newton's laws just say this is what's going to happen. It's going to bend you around in a circle. I stopped, but I could have gone on longer. I could go around several times. You have all the classic problems of this kind of numerical integration become apparent fairly shortly, because it turns out after a while the circle will cease to close, and it will turn out you've got some instabilities in the calculation. But this is a kind of standard thing that you can do for a beginning physics course to make clear what Newton's laws are about, what kind of, they provide you a machine for producing the behavior of objects. So that's one. And that's one of the things I wanted to show you. That's the most complicated thing I wanted to show. The other things I wanted to show, let's see if I can move this thing out of the way. Yeah, okay. All right, well, I don't know if you need any questions about that. I just thought this was very lovely. We used it in introductory physics for many years because you're teaching physics, you would like them to be able to do computation. On the other hand, you don't want to have a whole lot of overhead of teaching a computer language. And we thought one of the things that would be most useful for them to know when they got done, even if they weren't going on in physics, would be how to use a spreadsheet. And so we did quite a lot of computer examples, had students learn to program with a spreadsheet.
Charlie, the other thing you can do with this is change the nature of Newton's laws of mechanics and see what, to develop the intuition of why it is the way it is by adjusting the rules and without having to change the universe.
Well, I think before you do that, you want to change the initial conditions.
Yeah, sure.
And show you get ellipses, you can get circles, and then if you have initial velocity that's too high, you'll get a parabola or a hyperbola. The thing will not be a bound orbit anymore. And then you can set conditions like, what would the initial conditions have to be so that you fall directly into the center of the sun? Or something that will engage people who are 18 years old. All right, that's one of the things I wanted to show. The other two, I think, are less demanding of attention. There's really no mathematics involved at all. Let's see. Oh, I got to go here, and then I go here. So one of the things I particularly like it for is when I go shopping at Market Basket. All right. So here's my shopping list. This is if you scan down here, you'll find out pretty much what we eat in our house. It's all the things we eat, and then I will and I have a code for the aisles of the Market Basket over on Middlesex Turnpike, and then I go down through here and I select the things that I want, and then I say, all right, I've got my list. I'm going to sort it, and I go here, and I'm going to do a sort, and it always says, yeah, I want to do that, and so here's my list, and it's got something obscure here. But I'm going to sort on need. But then I'm also going to want to sort on aisle. And so I sort on aisle. And I say, okay, sort. And there's my sort. If I go in the Market Basket and go left, I go over to the butter. I go and get the eggs, the milk. I walk around in front of the shrimp. I go back. Now Market Basket has me going boostrophidonously, if you know what that means. But anyway, you have to go in this big S shape. You have to go down one direction on the odd numbered aisles, the other direction on the positive aisles. And then I come out somewhere at the end of my shopping list, which I usually print out. I mean, I will select out the part that has the need ticks. And I come out around the frozen food, vegetables, and I'm done. My shopping. It's very efficient. I like it.
Charlie, does this mean that you have to do all the shopping in your house now?
I do. That's a kind of sad thing.
Getting your wife to use this is a hopeless task.
Well, we get into some other problems here.
Charlie, let's not be sexist here, boys and girls.
Charlie, what do the fractions of aisle mean, and where do you put the quantity you want?
Oh, well, I know. I mean, I know what I want when the quantities I want. I live in a small place. I don't want big quantities of anything. The fractions mean whether it's on the left side or the right side, and whether it's to the front of the store or the back of the store.
This is actually very interesting. What you could do is you could say aisle for Market Basket, and then if you want to go Stop and Shop, you could have different aisles for them.
Right.
So that you could then say, well, I'm going to go to Stop and Shop, or I'm going to go to Market Basket. I'm going to Stop and Shop Bedford. And you can have different spreadsheets, different columns for that, and sort on them. And wow, this is something else.
We could publish these and sell them for $50 a page.
Charlie?
And we'll eat like you.
Charlie, the next improvement that you have to do is you have to translate your decimals into actual locations as you just stipulated, so that you can have aisle 20 front right, aisle 23 back left, whatever it is. I mean, you have to make it in English. This techie stuff doesn't work.
Depends on who you are, Peter.
Yeah.
Oh,
So, Charlie,
Charlie, how did you get the aisle information? Did you have to, was there some database, or you had to go through?
Ground truth.
years of experience.
Me with my spreadsheet and my pen. I walk through the Market Basket.
I think if you walk to the Market Basket and look on the ground, you'll see that there's some markings with the numbers on them in each of the aisles.
No, actually, Market Basket does publish an index to where things are in the store.
You can go to the help desk, and they will give you the whole listing of where things are.
Wow.
I did pretty much the same thing several years ago. I'm amused that Charlie's done it too.
Yeah. I do the
haven't moved it around.
I don't like to mess around. All right.
Charlie, I did the same thing for Star Market, and it's very similar to yours. We could probably combine our spreadsheets here.
Oh, we have to put
market
a pamphlet of the collected shopping lists guides to all the stores of the area. The trouble is,
shows that it's more fun to play with
we were
Probably shows it's more fun to spend time doing this on a spreadsheet than it is to go shopping.
Yes. Next question is, has anybody converted this to an app for a mobile phone?
Well, why not?
That would be the way to do
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And
Charlie,
then you use
there's-
geocoding to say what's coming up next. Don't
Yeah.
forget to get the spaghetti on your left, but 100 feet up.
Right.
So Charlie, I want to add one thing. I have another variable that I started researching is when I go to what time I arrive and how many people are there. So I've actually narrowed it down to figure out when is the best time to arrive and shop and leave.
Ah,
And I'm
You
working
know
on,
what aisles to go down at what times too. That's pretty good.
If you look
right?
at on the Google, it'll show you a histogram by day and by hour of how busy the place is going to be.
Google Maps is fairly reliable, but in the current situation, it may vary.
all right. One more thing.
Yeah.
All right.
Well done, Charles.
So here's just one other thing which I like very much. I'm teaching a class on the history of the bomb. A couple of you are in it. I need to send out emails every once in a while. This is my spreadsheet of who's in the class, and this is my spreadsheet column of their email addresses. And the thing that's very nice is I can just go, copy that column of email addresses. Then I can go over to my Google Mail and I can just paste that column into the address field of the email. And away it goes. Actually, I paste it into the blind copy field so that I'm not revealing to the world what I've revealed to you, which is the list of email addresses of all the people in the course.
So it puts in the proper, semicolons and everything for you?
Well, yeah, no, there's just no problem. I was surprised how sweetly it worked the first time I tried it. And I felt a big advance in my office.
Yeah, the programs are pretty smart about that. I've done the same thing with just that instead of a formatted email list like you have here, just straight text and moving it in and just creating a list and putting it in there, and it'll parse it for you nicely.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Charlie, do you have column E when you do the paste? It looks like you have the commas in that column.
Say that again?
Column E looks like it's commas.
Oh.
Is that what you use to paste? So it pastes its text and it inserts the commas for you?
Can you click on one of those column E items so we can see what it is up above?
Well, Mitch is right.
It's displayed there. ngould2001@yahoo.com is the example. Or this one from Haverford.
Can you click on column E8? Can you click on E8, please? Click on cell E8.
For Jonathan Himmel?
Whatever. Click on E8, please.
Sure. And that is a comment.
Yeah, so you highlighted probably both columns and pasted, or to do other.
I delete this column. I do not need this column. This column is in there because at one time something was telling me I needed comma-separated variables.
Okay.
And so I was making a provision to have comma-separated variables.
Well, that's where you store your commas.
And so I had the commas in there, and then I don't need them. It turns out.
Well, you might need them if it's not Google, if it's another app, right?
If I'm going into
another email client.
That's right. Yeah, I'm using Gmail, so it's.
Not everybody uses Gmail.
And also, Mitch, commas aren't the only separator. Some email programs use semicolons. So it's as I said, it's all done magic by your email client. You just paste it into the appropriate field, and they're parsed appropriately.
If it does it, right? If it doesn't do it, then you have to push it a little bit harder.
I haven't found a client that doesn't do it yet, but I haven't used them all.
All right. All right. So that's, I have some more elaborate uses of spreadsheets for doing some financial stuff. I felt a little retro as I heard Steve's very nice detailed description of how to keep your check balance. Because here's how I keep mine.
On a blackboard?
No. on large pieces of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's my check register. And I'm able to keep track of.
Well, for what it's worth, I keep my spreadsheet with the check register on my machine and also on no less than one cloud backup, so that if something happens in the house, I still have access to my check register. So it's not on a piece of paper.
Well, I don't know who you bank with, but my bank seems to know pretty well what my expenses are and what my.
What I didn't say is that I'm also managing half a dozen accounts on the same spreadsheet.
Anyway, thank you for your attention.